So a few weeks ago, XQC made a video about how he thinks there doesn't need to be more women in esports because we already have a ton of skilled female esports athletes. He also went on to make the point that it's ultimately a player's skill that should decide whether or not they get to compete. In an ideal world, I would agree with this sentiment. However, we do not live in a truly equal world. He seems to believe that all it takes to compete in the esports scene is to have skill and to show up to events to prove yourself. However, I do believe that he is missing some of the nuanced problems that minorities face to even show up to events to prove themselves. Whatever happens in the wider world has a trickle-down effect on what happens in the gaming and esports ecosystem. We have to recognize that the social, political, and economic policies designed to benefit one demographic over the other ultimately trickles down to the overarching gaming and esports system globally. To give an example, Dota 2 and League of Legends are played by predominantly white men, and that is because of the high cost of entry into these MOBAs and MMOs. The FGC is actually filled with a much more diverse community, and that is because of the lower cost of entry. We also need to talk about how socialization affects the treatment of minorities in the scene. Young women are not socialized to be pro gamers. We are told that video games, especially competitive games, are for boys. Society is all too happy to let young girls play games, but at a certain point we are pressured to move on to quote-unquote more feminine interests and hobbies. When you're not allowed to play games as seriously as the boys are, this leads to skill gaps that take a long time to bridge. The way the media also advertises products to us is also an insidious problem. For example, publications that do pieces on gift-giving ideas such as get your man a PlayStation or get your girl a box of Gucci perfume. If a piece of tech or a product directed at gamers has a person on the advert, it's most probably going to be a white dude. This kind of social stigma, combined with help from the media, certainly helps to create these predominantly male-dominated scenes. When women do want to be part of the gaming and esports scene and attempt to bridge the skill gap by partaking in these events and participating in competitive modes online, we tend to find ourselves constantly harassed and belittled for doing that. We often hear gendered and misogynistic abuse such as chicks sat at games and you need a husband and a kitchen. Women of color also get to enjoy the combination of misogynistic and racist slurs. Stalking and private harassment also tend to be a problem when you're a woman trying to break into the gaming and esports scene. And we try to bridge this divide by creating safe spaces that are women only, like with the CSGO women's event that had the $500,000 prize pool. It becomes such a hot topic of debate and contention. You'll often see comments such as, a women's only event? That's sexist, written in bad faith. When women do try to play the game the way folks think it should be played by being passive and taking a back seat, we still receive as much abuse as when we act louder and play as the boys do. This leads me to the major issue at hand, that we as a community have refused to acknowledge that we have a problem with how we treat minorities in this space. As long as we refuse to acknowledge this simple truth, we can never constructively move forward, and it is immoral to continue to deny this. Minister Malcolm X teaches us that tactics based on morality can only work with a system that is actually moral to begin with. The onus is unfairly placed on minorities to point out that the problem exists, and when we actually do, we are shamed, gaslit, people have whataboutisms ready, and people are eager to play devil's advocate to shut down the discourse before it even actually starts. We can't have a constructive discussion if so many people in this space simply refuse to acknowledge that there is a problem even to begin with. Keeping competitive gaming spaces unwelcoming or closed off is damaging to everybody in the long run. More diversity means more talent. It means that you also get to witness ideas and techniques from people you normally wouldn't if we had a closed gate. So in conclusion, while I don't inherently disagree with what XQC said about people getting to compete are the people with the most skill, it is an oversimplification of a very nuanced issue. We have a very long way to go before just be a good player is all you need to compete and win.